Anger is human. Some express it, some suppress it, some get overwhelmed with it. What's the right thing to do? You can't avoid it. You can't deny it. But you can deal with it. Once I was at an airport and I saw this gentleman in suit. He was really angry. He was shouting at some of the people who were working there at the airport. You know, the guys who handle the baggage, they pick up your stuff, they put on the sticker and load it on the conveyor belt. But I noticed this guy who was a staff member. He was very polite throughout the time. This man was literally shouting at him. Everyone around was watching, but the staff member was very polite. In fact, he was smiling all the time. He didn't show any adverse reaction. He politely nodded his head as this man was shouting at him. I just wanted to understand what the issue was, so I went to the scene. By then, the guy who was shouting was gone. So I just inquired this staff member what was going on. He said, nothing much. It was a minor problem. Someone from the staff accidentally spilled some water on the guy's suit, so he was very annoyed and he started shouting. And then I asked him, how come you remained so calm throughout? In fact, you were smiling all the time. And he said, you know what, that is very simple. The reason I was smiling was this guy was going to France, but his baggage will be going to China. People have their own ways of coping with anger. The guy in the suit lashed out. It didn't do him any good. Clearly, that wasn't the best way of coping with anger. Welcome to anger management. Learn how to express yourself with the strategies I'm going to teach you. You are here with a purpose. You are here because you have decided that you need to manage your anger. You are here because you need help. You are possibly angry about something or someone right now, and you want advice on how to handle it. I'm going to keep it simple for you. We will explore two aspects. One, what triggers your anger? And two, what strategy can you use? What triggers your anger could be something really trivial. Remember that this is just the trigger. The ammunition was already loaded. What do we mean by this? Let's imagine a hypothetical character. Many of us will be able to relate to this character. Let's say this is a person who has been working really hard on a project. They've been under a lot of mental stress. They have been working for 15, 16 hours every day, and they've been working over the weekends. They've not had any stimulation to keep their mental status in a good mood. They've not had much relaxation. In fact, they may not have had a good amount of sleep and not even the right amount of food at the right time. This is something that might have happened with many of us. We are busy with our work, studies, family, other commitments. We sacrifice the time we allocate to ourselves for our relaxation, for sleep. All these things pile up, and this character will find themselves under a lot of stress over a period of time. Let's say we just top it off with a performance appraisal for this character at work, and they get an average review. They are told that, it was a difficult year, the business didn't do really well, So you might have put in a lot of hard work, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. All these things leads up to the frustration of this person. At first, it started off as a mild inconvenience. Maybe they just had to skip a breakfast to attend a meeting. Then it became a little more. It became a bit of a disappointment that they had to repeatedly sacrifice their personal time. Then it grew even further. It became a frustration. Then it developed. The person becomes very easily irritable. They get annoyed at little things. They get irritated even by people who they care about and people who care about them. They don't have a few minutes to talk to their loved ones, their family and friends. They don't enjoy this, but they find themselves in this level of stress. Maybe because they have to keep their job, maybe they need to take responsibility for earning for their family, maybe they have mortgage commitments. There could be many reasons why, although they are not happy doing that, they still have to do it. But all this time, they have managed to store their anger, their frustration, their disappointment, all the stress that they have been facing, experiencing is bottled up. And let's say they have a small incident somewhere when they go outside. For example, they are at the airport, they're waiting in line to check in, and someone cuts the line. That triggers this person's reaction. They lash out, they go on to abuse verbally, their heart starts pounding, they're literally shivering in anger, they might even get physical. This is not something that they want to do, it's just happening to them. This happened to them once there was a trigger. This trigger is just something that happened at the breaking point. The person has been holding on to all their negative experiences. They've not been able to express. At a certain point, it crosses the threshold. It crosses their breaking point, and there they explode. It's not their fault, but it does give them a really bad experience. They regret doing that. Going through those emotions feels completely unnecessary in hindsight. Their rational mind tells them that it was totally silly to act in such a manner, but at that point in time, they didn't think of all these things. They just reacted. I'm quite sure that we all have been in those times. A famous spiritual leader, Sadhguru, says the following on the subject of anger. It is not a conscious act. You are poisoning yourself. You are causing unpleasantness to yourself because your mind is not taking instructions from you. Who is your mind? Who are you? Is your mind different from you? How can your mind not be taking instructions from you? Who is it taking the instructions from? Do we have no choice but to just blame ourselves that we are not in control of our mind? Can we do something about it? Yes, we can. Usually, when we come to anger management, we are only concerned about addressing what needs to be done once the trigger happens. But the trigger will not be effective without the ammunition that is stored. If you had taken care of all your stress as and when it occurred, and you were in a great positive mindset, then I'm sure a small trigger will have absolutely no effect on you. The trigger only works when you have piled up a lot of stress, disappointment, all kinds of negative feelings and frustrations. and you have stored it within yourself, and it's just a time bomb that's waiting to explode once a trigger happens. So, the strategies that I'm going to talk about for managing your anger are twofold. One is, once the trigger happens, what do you have to do? It might happen to anyone, even if you have been practicing great anger management techniques. You could still need those resources to handle a situation when a trigger has occurred and you are caught off guard. You will have to react. So you need some strategy there. And the second aspect is the ammunitions that you have been storing, the stress that you have to deal with every time, be it physical stress, emotional stress, mental stress, or any other kinds of stress. What strategy do you need to use so you don't keep piling them up, just waiting to explode at some point in time? Because if you manage your mood, then a minor trigger will not affect you. Now, the first part. Unfortunately, you've been under a lot of stress and the trigger goes off. You are caught off guard. You know you're about to react. What do you do then? Breathe. You should breathe. You're wondering, why should I breathe? What good can it do? There are two things. One, breathing as such has a calming effect on you. And two, more importantly, when you breathe, you give yourself a few seconds of time. Why does it help? What will you do with a few seconds of time? To answer this, let's understand the human brain. Your brain has a part called amygdala. This is the region of your brain that's primarily associated with emotional processes. When you get angry, amygdala takes over and you're no longer rational. This process is called amygdala hijack. The output of sense organs is first received by the thalamus. Part of the stimulus from the thalamus goes directly to amygdala, which is the emotional part of your brain. And other parts are sent to the neocortex, which is the rational part of your brain, which you use for thinking and making logical decisions. If the amygdala part of your brain senses a trigger that matches the stimulus that requires a response of a fight or flight or freeze situation, then the amygdala triggers the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis and it hijacks the rational brain function. This brain activity caused by amygdala hijack is something that happens a few milliseconds faster than the rational brain. So if the amygdala gets to act before the rational part of your brain, the neocortex decides what needs to be done in a given situation. And if amygdala perceives this situation as a fight or flight or freeze situation, then it leads the person to react irrationally and destructively. So when there is an event that triggers anger, if amygdala hijacks the person, then the person will lash out. Oftentimes, after all the lashing out, the person then goes back and regrets what they have done. But I said, when there is a trigger and you feel that you are about to react, take a deep breath. When you breathe, you give yourself a few seconds more. These are important few seconds. This can completely change the way you will handle this situation. So give yourself these great few seconds so that your rational brain has enough time to process the stimulus and provide you with a response that is more appropriate for the situation. Sometimes you breathe, you get your rational mind to think, and the rational mind tells you, don't fight. The emotional mind tells you to fight, right? The amygdala tells you to fight, and your neocortex tells you, don't fight. While it tells you don't fight, it doesn't tell you what you need to do. What is the alternative to fighting? That's because your brain needs more time to process and decide what will be a good alternative. But it has had enough time to at least tell you that fighting is not the right option. What you can do then is move away from the scene. If you are in a meeting room where there is an argument and you are about to lash out, your rational mind, after a few moments, tells you not to fight, and you don't know what exactly you are supposed to do, how you are supposed to react. Just excuse yourself. It's okay to be absent for a few moments, or for a few minutes, or for a few hours from the place of conflict. If it's an email that triggered you and you were about to send a very strong reply, but your rational mind tells you to wait, then you wait. You give yourself a few more minutes. Your rational mind has already told you that fighting is not the correct option, but you need some more time to think about it. Maybe sleep over it, and then next day, with a clear mind, draft your reply. It will be a lot better than the one that you originally drafted when you were full of anger. So, the simple two-step solution when anger is triggered at the breaking point and you are about to react, you are about to lash out, is breathe and remove yourself from the place of conflict. There are other suggestions that people normally recommend. Some ask you to have some water, some ask you to laugh. For me, laughing when I'm particularly angry about something isn't a choice. I can't convince myself to do it. It just feels silly for me. I'm not practiced enough to be able to have that kind of self control to laugh out when I'm angry. It might work for you, it might work for some people, but I am looking to give you something that will definitely work. People also recommend having some water. This is again something I find to be impractical sometimes. You are in the middle of a conversation, you just don't want to get up and go fetch some water in that time of heated argument. And when you are about to react, you only have a very short duration before you decide something. But I definitely believe that you can convince yourself to have one deep breath, one nice long breath. You have been breathing all your life, every day, every minute. It takes the highest priority than any other task. So I'm pretty sure with a little bit of training, with a little bit of practice, you will be able to teach yourself to breathe instead of react when you face a situation that has triggered your anger. Once you manage to do this part, your rational mind will help you with the next steps. Sometimes you need more time. You just get out of the situation, move to a completely different place, or get on with a completely different task, and allow your mind, allow your brain to process this event and to come out with productive behavior. Now, to the second part. I kept telling you that The trigger only has so much power. It's the ammunition that has been stored that leads you to lash out. All the negative thoughts, negative experiences, disappointments, frustrations, failures require you to express these emotions in some way or the other. Denying these or suppressing these feelings build up. You can think of this as some kind of a container that's holding on to acid. A quote from Mark Twain: anger is an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured. It's a very deep thought. When you look at anger, it's not just the trigger. You need to imagine this: some kind of a vessel that's holding on to what Mark Twain refers to as acid, and what I am telling you are your negative emotions. It's not an endless container. It can't keep holding all your negative feelings. It has a breaking point at which it will explode. So, what can you do to empty this vessel? What can you do to let out these negative emotions from your brain? How can you free yourself of all these disappointments and frustrations and stop yourself from storing them till they explode? You have a solution. It's called affect labeling. Affect labeling is an implicit emotional regulation strategy. Affect labeling is about putting your feelings into words. This could just be you telling yourself about how you are feeling. I'm feeling really stressed. I am overworked. I am very disappointed with the way this project is going. I am very frustrated that I can't solve this problem. I am very angry at what happened today in my meeting with my colleagues. If you can say these things to yourself or write these things down somewhere, then research has shown that it leads to a higher brain activity within the ventrolateral prefrontal cortex of your brain, which is the rational decision making portion of your brain, and a reduced activity in the amygdala, which is the emotional section. This is because this stimulus is in a well written, well framed form, and it stimulates your rational decision making brain more than it stimulates amygdala. Well, I said these are scientific and not without proof, so I will be sharing two Wikipedia links, one on affect labeling and the other on amygdala hijack. We discuss both of these in this video. These links will have further references to ton of research material on this topic. So hopefully it fulfills your scientific appetite to verify and validate these methods. Some people have a great difficulty in doing affect labeling. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips. May have a habit of writing diaries where you normally record your day, your emotions, people you met, and so on. If you do have that habit, then you already have the journal where you can add about your emotions. But if you don't have that practice, then it's okay to just do a self-reflection before you go to bed. You spend a few seconds or a few minutes thinking about your day and telling yourself what kind of emotion you went through when certain events happened that made you uncomfortable. This helps you and your brain process this information in a rational manner. And if you are into social media, if you like posting about your experiences and feelings on Twitter or Facebook, then go ahead. What you actually do is very similar to affect labeling. Don't just use those platforms to share your positive experiences. You can use them for affect labeling. A research study on tweets that people posted on Twitter has been found to support this idea. To summarize this for you, at the moment of trigger, breathe, give yourself a few seconds of time. If you still can't figure out what the right course of action is, get out of the situation. And when you experience negative feelings, disappointments, frustrations in your day to day life, try to practice affect labeling. That should help you clean out your vessel of anger. But I have a bonus tip before concluding this video, and that is meditation. Meditation is a slightly more long term solution, but research has shown that meditation training has resulted in a reduced activity in amygdala, and in some cases, even a shrinkage in the size of amygdala. This is probably why gurus remain very calm. A decrease in brain cell volume in amygdala or decreased activity in amygdala is something that would reduce your chances of getting into a fight or flight reaction. So if you have serious anger problems and you want to overcome it, then you should really consider meditation. Before I end this video is just meant to help people. This is by no means an alternative to therapy if that's what you need. If you have an anger problem and you feel that it's not something you can overcome by yourself, you need outside help, then you should consider getting that outside help. I do hope that you found this half an hour video on anger management to be highly helpful, and I hope this makes some difference for you in your life. Please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share your comments. That will help more people find this useful material and help them improve their lives as well. Thanks for watching.